Welcome to Real Community Talks, where real conversations with community influencers are made available to everyone. I'm your host, Matt De Silva, and on today's episode, we have the man himself who designed our logo, Omran Omaid, on the episode today. Omran, thanks for being on the show today.
Hey man, what's up? No, it's good to be here, man. It's a good day.
I was about to laugh because when prepping for the episode, you're like, I hate small talk, and you're like, hey, what's up? We'll get into that. So no, actually, why don't we start with that? So you were saying that you hate small talk, and because you feel like people are robotic and they're like, how's it going? But you know that they're actually generally, they don't care how's it going, but they just do that because it's like a societal norm, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's getting weirder and weirder I never used to notice it before. But I heard someone once in a transit, or I was commuting and I was eavesdropping on someone and they're talking about someone who they work with, and they're saying how when they say hi to them, how are you? The other person doesn't say how are you back. They just say I'm good, thanks. And then I started thinking like I do the same thing. Usually when people say hi, how are you? I say so they say hi, how are you? I'm saying hi, I'm good, thanks, and I keep going with my life. And then I started realizing recently that people don't really say that. They say hi, how are you? I'm good, thanks. How are you? Great. And they just
it's so robotic. Yeah,
it's so robotic, man. It happens so much.
It's it's like the way we've been brought up in like school and like even just like families and whatever like that. Like I almost feel guilty to not say like how's it going back, but I'm just like, you know what, like I don't know, you don't want to like and the thing too, what I do to like mess up people sometimes, they're like, how's it going? And I'm like, I'm actually having a terrible day, and they're like they don't know what to respond because they're so used to just saying the typical response, right?
Well, I like that, man. I might try that, like try some things like that.
You know what, just I'm just real. #real community talks. I'm just real because I'm like, sometimes I'm having a crappy day, but I don't want to fake it like I'm having a good one, right?
No, I hear you, man.
So before we get started, I'm gonna do this whole episode. Usually I have water and stuff like that, but my brother's fasting today, so I'm gonna make sure that in solidarity with him, I'm gonna do this. So if my mouth goes up, But for those of you who may not know who Omran is, and if you don't, I don't know like what you're doing with your life, but Omran is a creative content producer for one of the most popular e-commerce software companies known as Shopify, which serves over 600,000 businesses. He's also a director and writer, and is actually currently working on Courtside with our bro Adrian Wallace, and they're working on season 2 right now. He's a filmmaker. He's worked on projects such as the TV series Runts and the feature film The Translator. He has volunteered with the Art Gallery Mississauga. He's also, among many other things, a graphic designer, a cinematographer, a photographer, a video editor, a motions graphic designer, and he also draws. And I believe you also did a bit of stand-up comedy, I believe. And most importantly, I mean, for relevance to this episode, he designed our awesome logo. So with that, why don't we segue into what's your origin story? So who is Omran Omaid and where are you from?
Yeah, so I'm from Afghanistan. That's where I was born in Kabul, and I moved when I was pretty young. We moved to Canada because it got pretty hectic there. As you might know, the Taliban at that time in the 90s were kind of gaining their terrain, their world, and that world they're taking over. So my parents moved us out of Afghanistan, and we went to Canada. And when we got here, we kind of and I first got here with my mom. It was just me, my mom, and my siblings. So my mom was a single mother, immigrant single mother with 4 kids when she first got here.
Jeez.
Yeah, and we were staying at a shelter for a few months. Yeah, when we first got here at a women's shelter, and I was pretty young. And it was actually the Red Door shelter, which I've been recently kind of wanted to revisit that place.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's a great shelter, man. They're really good to us.
Just to like pay homage to like your roots and give them back, right? Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
you're a good guy.
Yeah, that was at Toronto too. So I'm thinking about like visiting them, maybe trying to do something with them, project or something. But, that was where we started in Toronto, and then we moved to Flemingdon Park. And back then it was a bad place. It was dirty there, man.
Really?
And I mean dirty as in like it was rough. It was rough. Yeah. It was pretty bad, like to the point where like I remember when I was a kid there, I was on daycare in the park, and like they had to do some sort of alert or something because there was a guy flashing himself in front of the
Wow.
church. Yeah, he was
Jeez.
flashing himself in front of
That's
people in
crazy.
the church. It was like crazy homeless guy or something. And yeah, and I saw some. I went through some like bad things there, like with there's a lot of gang stuff going on there and like violence and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So
So
yeah,
with that, like growing up as how old were you when you came to Canada?
I was around four, like 3 or 4. Yeah.
So did you experience like tension being an Afghani young male in Flemington, like with related to your culture and where you're from?
Yeah, that's funny because I was like before 9/11, I was this like African kid that no one knew where that was. So
Yeah.
I was just like an exotic country outside somewhere.
Yeah.
But and I would tell people, yeah, when I told people I'm from Afghanistan, they didn't really know what that was. And post 9/11, everyone knew what Afghanistan was, and they stamped it as that place that
Wow.
Osama bin Laden is from, which
Yeah.
he's not really from there, but he's from Saudi Arabia, but they stamped that place as that terrorist country, and ever since then, man, that changed a lot.
Yeah,
Things changed from that,
sure.
and it affected me a lot too. That's partly what Runts is based on, actually. Just to add, Runts and the translator are not created yet. They're not. Actually in the writing process right now. So I've been writing those for a few years now.
Okay.
But Runts has been one of my big projects, a series that I wanna launch.
Awesome.
And pitch somewhere very soon.
Awesome. So because you're a filmmaker, and I know actually there's this this guy who shout out to the apartment, Ali Baluch, who is one of my favorite podcast hosts and on one of my favorite podcasts. He's actually from Afghanistan, and he actually goes back and shoots and films there. If you had the opportunity and you had like the grant money was good, you had all the equipment, you had the team, what story would you tell about Afghanistan that people don't know because of the news?
Honestly, it would be the translator. That's the one that that's the big one. That's the big one I'm working on, actually.
Right.
And it's I'm kind of keeping the story low key,
For sure.
it's very close to my heart and very close to my family and what we're trying to do. But it's essentially tells the story of someone who's in the middle of something. Like when you think of a translator, they kind of put in the middle of two sides, right?
Wow.
So
That's deep. Yeah.
imagine you're an Afghan American translator born in Afghanistan, raised in America, and you go back to Afghanistan to be a translator, and you put in the middle of two sides that you put in a compromising position where you're not sure whose side you should be loyal to or whose side you're really from, right? Because normally if you go there with the military, you're gonna be with the military, right? And you're gonna make sure you have their back at all times. But what if you're put in a situation where that questions everything? Everything is questioning, and you start thinking, who am I really loyal to? Like, who are my people? Is it the place where I was raised with these or I came here with?
Yeah.
Or is it the people where I was born?
Wow.
I was born in the country I was born in, and I think that's a problem. The whole idea of that is supposed to be sort of a metaphor of something bigger, which is, I think, cultural identity. I was reading something about third culture kids or something, right? And it's this phenomenon going around the whole world. It's a global phenomenon, and it's because of globalization and how people are moving to different countries more frequently now and immigrating. And it's like being born in one country, but being raised in another. So you have like these two cultures clashing inside of you.
Wow.
And you have like, you're raised in one culture in your house with your parents, with your family, and then a whole other culture outside of your house.
Yeah.
So it's like me as an Afghan, in my house I speak Farsi. I do all the Afghan traditions with my family, but outside there's a whole other world that I'm kind of influenced by. And
That's true.
And inside I'm always questioning my cultural identity. It's like, am I Canadian first or am I an Afghan first?
Yeah.
And to this day, I still don't really know which one comes first, because I'm so embedded in both.
Yeah. I resonate with that. I think you said third culture thing, because it's like my dad's Portuguese, my mom's Guyanese, but then I'm also Canadian. Yeah. But then it's like I also live in a highly East Indian community where people think I'm Punjabi, but I think it messes them up when they see like my name tag says Matthew, and then like an uncle will come and speak to me, and I'm just like, I don't understand. But it's like, even in that, like, I think it's so huge here in Malton. Like, I see a lot of and like not trying to throw shades, but a lot of my Punjabi friends, like I see a lot of them are like, you know, devout Sikhs when they're young, and like, you know, they wear the turban, and then eventually in their life they end up, you know, taking it off and cutting their hair and stuff like that. So I think there's that push and pull, because I guess sometimes people see the culture that they grew up with, or they don't rate it because it might be like archaic to them now that they're introduced to this culture. But I think even in terms of like people who are psychologists and social workers, to understand how that plays on someone's like psyche and understanding, and leads to depression and stuff like that, because you're battling, right? Because you want to please your culture, your family, your friends, but then it's like you also have this new life, right? Yeah. So I think that's a huge story. So I'm looking forward to checking that out when it definitely comes out. Yeah. So you did 3 degrees at 3 diplomas at Humber College, right?
Yeah. No, 1 diploma, 2 certificates.
1 diploma, 2 certificates. Yeah. So you did it in media and film and TV production, and I think design, right?
Design, yep.
So, what was the greatest lesson or biggest takeaway from just post-secondary in general, beyond just like the context of what you were dealing with? Mm-hmm. What can you take away? Because I know for me, I've actually learned a lot more about life than the actual book work. But what did you learn?
The one thing I took away the most, and from the beginning of my design program to the end of my film program, which was 5 years altogether, I learned about being around people and learning and communicating with people and working with people. That's the number one thing I took out of it is being around people who you intend to be with long term, you know, to work with long term, like and not just networking. But even then, like I learned who I want to be around to have a longer lasting, impactful relationship and friendship, you know, and I met a lot of people through my school, and I learned what I want to look into, what I look for in people, to have a strong and long lasting working relationship or friendship or whatever it is. Yeah. That's one thing I definitely learned from it, and there's a few people that I met in film school that I got that from, and now I'm doing some great stuff with them. That one of those people includes Adrian Wallace, and and it's just about making sure you're around the right people, because the one very key philosophy or idea in my culture or religion is that you are a product of the people you're around, and that's actually that's a universal thing, you know. But you become a product of the people you're around, and that's what I want to be. If you get the 5 people that you interact with the most in your life, and you're a combination of all 5 of them. That's no matter where you are, who you are. That's what it is. That's what I've read that somewhere. I heard it many times. That's pretty much what you are.
Wow, that's so true. So because you're in that field and you did that study, I know in prepping for the episode, you dropped your Vimeo stuff so people can check you out on Vimeo. For me, someone who I've seen Vimeo, but I don't know too much what it's about, and maybe for some other people, with platforms like YouTube and stuff like that, what's the relevancy of Vimeo? What sets it different than like platforms like YouTube?
Yeah, I thought a lot about going on YouTube and doing my thing on there, but I like Vimeo because of the community there, you know, and even just the brand of Vimeo they're very good. They did very well with branding themselves as a high quality, elite sort of video stream or video
like posting, for creatives and stuff.
Platform, right? Yeah. And they've done that very well, and they're still doing that very well. Like even on YouTube, you see all these Vimeo ads. I don't know if you see them a lot, but I see them.
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
a lot. Yeah. Those creative, you know, nice, beautiful Vimeo ads about joining and watching videos and getting an account on there. And I think Vimeo is now known for that. They're known for a creative, artistic, true filmmakers platform. You know? So that's why I want to be there. That's why I'm there, is because I can connect and be there with. It gives you credibility as well, you know, putting your work on there. Yeah. Especially if you have pretty good work. Yeah. Like I would rather send a potential client or employer a Vimeo link of my demo reel than a YouTube link. Wow. Just because Vimeo has that brand, you know, that you know it's you can trust it, you know, in a way, and it looks good, you know. It just looks good on you to know that.
So with like, and I guess that makes sense because it's more specific to like a certain like group of creators, or
Yeah.
like not like specific, but I mean like it's, you understand that if you're on there, you're putting out quality good work, and
Yeah.
it's for, but on YouTube, like you can see like a how to make a lasagna video to like a creative video, right? So
Yeah.
with that, like so for instance, someone like me who's doing a podcast or and putting it on YouTube, do you think that's like a scene that I should look into, or something that I can, you know, branch into, or you think it's more so for like film and like TV series and stuff like that?
To be honest, I haven't done a lot of research on podcasts on Vimeo, but I think it's worth looking into.
Yeah.
But I would say from what I know, Vimeo might not be the platform for that. And that's a great question, because when you make contents, one of the first questions you got to make, especially when it's online content, is where do you want to host your content, you know?
Yeah.
And that's where do you want the home of your content to be?
Yeah.
And this is a great example of thinking of like platforms. Like you could think of, hey, anywhere could be great, but that's not always true. Like Vimeo might not be the best place because it is catered more towards creative visual filmmaking.
Yeah.
Whereas a podcast, it's more audio, obviously,
normally,
you know,
yeah.
and like visually, it's not as, you know, dynamic, I guess.
Yeah.
So it might not hit the market there as much as it could on YouTube or on SoundCloud or iTunes. So yeah, and that's the great thing about YouTube too. It's a variety, and it's open to anything, you know.
Yeah.
But I would say like just usability, like platform and interface and UX, like that kind of thing for YouTube and Vimeo, they're pretty much the same. And there's no big difference between what they offer. But I would just say the thing that it comes down to is what they host, what kind of content they host, and how they brand themselves. You know? And Vimeo brand themselves completely different than the way YouTube does.
Yeah. Like even in marketing my podcast, like I'm not trying to do everything, but I'm trying to reach out to specific groups. Like obviously we know that iTunes is one of the most popular podcast hosts, even from my analytics and my statistics. Like 90% of people are downloading from there. But like it doesn't mean that I still don't reach out into like Stitcher or into like Google Music and stuff like that, because there's niches there. But it doesn't mean that you have to do everything. Like one thing that I know is, I mean, for now at least, I know I'm not going to really go into Snapchat, because that's more for like an individual basis as opposed to like a show at this moment. Maybe like if you're the Breakfast Club, you could, but like for me at the moment. So I guess it's trying to get yourself out there in different mediums, but not being like, not over like promoting your show and oversaturating everything. Right?
Yeah. At the end of the day, you want people to know where you are.
Yeah.
And you don't want people to be like, oh, he's everywhere. I mean,
for sure.
Where do I go? Where should I listen to him? You know?
Yeah.
Everyone has their taste of places that they want to listen to. Like some people prefer SoundCloud for a podcast. Others don't mind YouTube or iTunes. So as long as you have those clear to people and they can choose their flavor, you know,
Yeah. So part of your come up was first starting as a paper boy for Mississauga News, to working for Harvey's, to doing real estate videography, to doing freelance work for Sportsnet. You even worked for a bodybuilding and fitness company, and then to being a content creator for CYA Live before, which was formerly Synaptop, before you came into Shopify. So what was the moment where, like, was there like a moment where everything clicked, where you're like, I knew I needed to get into the industry you're in right now, or was it like a culmination of things, or both?
Well, yeah, actually, it was right after film school. Like in film school, in my program specifically, they push union a lot, like to go to the union, to do the guilds or the all that IATC and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And if you're from the industry, you know what those are. It's like, and I knew right away when I after those the people would come in and talk about it, and they say, or talk about, like, say what their experiences was and how you get in and all that stuff. And I knew as soon as those people left, and like at the end of my school year, okay, so pretty much by the end of my school year in film school, I was like, I don't want to go into the union. I'm not going into the union. And that's one thing I knew for sure.
Yeah.
But I knew that I want to move in the industry, and I want to move as impactfully as I can, you know, with all the skills that I have. Because another thing in film school they pushed a lot is taking one skill, one discipline, and pushing that and going with full force with that, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm good at all these different things, and I actually I'm good at them. You know, I'm not just whatever at them. I'm quite good. So I want to use all of them, and I enjoy doing all of them as well. I love editing. I love filming. I love directing and writing, right? So I want to use all of that because that's gonna get the most out of it, right?
And you're multifaceted too, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, I want to do something where I can exercise all my skills, you know, and I started looking into things, and there's quite a lot of jobs now like that. That actually, a lot of people are looking for that skill now. That kind of those kind of disciplines, you know,
Definitely.
the jack of all trades type.
Yeah.
A lot of content now. There's a lot of positions called content producers or content creators, and usually that's what they're looking for. They're looking for the guy who can do everything, and I was very blessed to have met the right people at the right time after film school. Right after film school, I met a guy called. Actually, sorry, I think mine is on too.
Oh, it's okay. We're good.
I'm gonna turn off my phone. Just 1 second. I was afraid mine might go off or something.
Nah. I think that was me. That was my WhatsApp.
Okay, cool. No, sorry. So just going on. So yeah, I was just saying. I was very blessed to meet the right people at the right time.
That's awesome.
After film school, right? And right before I was finishing film school, I met a guy named Donovan Bennett, who really brought like a great insight for me. He put me on projects that were. He was from Sportsnet, by the way. So Donovan Bennett is from Sportsnet. He's a host and writer of articles, and he's occasionally on TV talking about sports sometimes, and he's on video a lot online. He has a lot of video pieces as well that complement or go with his articles.
Yeah.
And I met him on like some site, right? I can't remember. It might have been Mandy or Craigslist. It was one of those two.
Yeah.
And I was looking for stuff, and it was a very ambiguous like post. He's just like, I need a videographer for a shoot, right? Something like that. And it ended up being Sportsnet, right?
Yeah.
So I was like,
wow, that's huge.
Shit, yeah, I met him on there. And he looked at my reel. He said, I have a nice, we talked on the phone for a bit. He said, I have a nice documentary style, you know, he likes it. And I met him, and I right off the bat, we did my first shoot was a Nike soccer video.
That's crazy.
And that ended up being on Sportsnet.
Wow.
Yeah, and I shot and edited that.
And that was all you?
Yeah, that was on me. I shot and edited that. Yeah.
Is that up anywhere that we could check it out?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
I could send that link to you. Yeah,
send that link,
definitely.
and I'll post it in the description. Wow, that's crazy, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
Awesome. So with all your experience, moving up the ladder and going to the different jobs, how did the opportunity with Shopify come about?
So yeah, for Shopify, I was kind of working a bunch of different places at that time. I was working with See Alive, which is which was formerly known as Synaptop, and I was kind of looking for other opportunities to grow, you know, to find different avenues in my work, and I was also editing at IOVIT, which is a muscle supplement company for protein and that kind of thing. So I was editing the commercials, but I saw a post for a job as a live stream operator at first, and I was like, wow, I actually did live stream operating at See Live at Synaptop, right? And I was like, you know what, that could be a great, because that's a very new position, like that's very fresh, like that's right out of in the industry right now. That's a hot and ready position, because live streaming is so new.
Yeah, it's true.
So that's like something that not a lot of people have. That discipline, soon enough, if not already, schools are gonna start teaching live stream operating and how to set up a live stream and all that stuff. And I was blessed to learn that very quickly. And on my own. I learned that all on my own in Snaptop and See Live, and I work with the developers to learn how it all works. And I looked at that and I'm like, you know what, I have the skills, I'm gonna apply to it. So I applied, and then a couple of weeks later they got back to me and they're like, okay, they want me to have a phone interview. So I did the phone interview, and I talked to them a little bit, and it went great. And then I did a couple more interviews so altogether I did 5 interviews with them. By my 3rd interview, I talked to my lead that ended up being my lead now, or my current lead.
5 interviews?
Yeah.
I'm just taking that in. Wow, that's crazy.
That's not even like, I know people who did like 12 interviews for Shopify. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So that's like,
They really focus on what kind of people they're bringing into the team, right?
Yeah. I thought about this a lot, and I'm like, the one smart thing that's very, very smart that they do is they put a lot of energy and time and resources into hiring. Wow. And getting the right people from the beginning. Yeah. Because what other companies do is they hire someone who's like, he could be good, he could not be that good.
But they're not sure.
They're not sure, so they have the 3-month probation,
Yeah.
and they'll see if in that 3 months if they want to keep them or not, or if they do
Yeah.
something that messes up. But Shopify doesn't have probation. Right when you start, you hit off right off the ground. You go and you
Wow.
you hit it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And it works. It works really well because
Yeah.
they have the best people there. Like that's one of the best things about Shopify is the people. Like
Yeah.
they're the everyone there is the best at what they do. If not the best, they are seeking to be the best. They're ready to learn and be the best that they
awesome.
can be. So that's one thing I definitely noticed. But yeah, after my actually going back to my interviews, after my third interview, they actually told me I might be better for a more creative position. And there was another position that they're starting to look for, but they haven't really put out the job yet.
Yeah.
So they said I might be better for the creative content producer for R&D, and I ended up doing. I ended up talking to them about it. They said they might need podcast for it. They might need some videos like more episodic and a couple other things. And I was like, yeah, you know what? That sounds great, and I'm down for that. And so I wasn't the live stream operator anymore, but I went into something that I actually wanted to do more.
Yeah.
And now after the 5th interview, I went to the office. I got to know everyone. I got to meet the team, and the office in Ottawa is amazing. Awesome. When I saw that, I was like, I don't know if I can move to Ottawa.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do this. They fly you out, and they have you check out the office, interview.
Wow.
Yeah, and after I went to the office, after I met the people there, I was like, all right, you know what? Even though Ottawa is not Toronto for sure, this place is dope, man. And I'm like, you know what? I can work here for a while. So, and after that, brings us to the present, and I'm working there now. It's been about 2 months, and I love it, man. It's an amazing place to work. It's very inspirational, very they very much build an atmosphere for you to do the best work you can. That's what it's all about in Shopify.
And you get to do the multifaceted thing, like you said, like you want to do editing, and you get to do all the different types of things there, right? So I think that's so key. Like you touched on going to, it's not Toronto, it's Ottawa, but I'm realizing now with even the saturation of the workforce is sometimes people, I know a friend of mine that's in Alberta right now because work out here isn't working out, but he got something better there. So it's a tough decision, but I guess that this is going to help grow your portfolio. Not that you're just doing it for that, you're enjoying it as well, but I mean, it's going to grow your portfolio, and it also shows that you're able to pick up in a new place and just your skill set doesn't change regardless of whatever you are geographically, right? So one of the reasons I came to you for my logo was because I love the style of logo you design. I don't know if there's a specific type of design that it's called, but it's where you design the picture is the word. So one of my favorite ones you did was the bee, right? Where it's shaped like a bee, right? So what led you to this type of design, or was it something that you specifically thought of, or?
Actually, it kind of hit me. This is a great story, actually. It happened in film school, actually. Because when I was in design in my first program, I always thought about film. When I was in film program, I always thought about design, which is kind of those are my two loves. I love both of them. And but design just never really pushed me to the point that film does. I do so much more in film.
Yeah.
But how it happened was in my second year of film school, I created a documentary called Design of Creation, and to pitch the documentary, I wanted to show people the process of design, how it works. And that's what the documentary was about, is how the mind works when it's trying to create something or design something, specifically in the design realm and graphic design, right? And what I did to pitch it was I told someone to give me a word, and I'm gonna make it into a picture.
Wow.
And they gave me car. I just picked someone random in the crowd, and I said, just give me a word, and I tried to draw it on the chalkboard as quickly as I could.
That's crazy.
And people started laughing at me and shit because I was messing up, and I didn't ever make it. Was nothing good. I was it's horrible, right? But that wasn't the point. The point wasn't to make something beautiful at the end. The point was to show the process, and people saw me trying to figure it out while I was doing it right now. And I got pretty close. I almost got there, right? But I had 2 minutes to pitch, or 5 minutes to pitch. So I couldn't get there. And then eventually, I did it, and I made the documentary, and it turned out all right. But I learned a lot from that process.
Wow.
And just going into that design world and understanding how they think. But I ended up making the car logo, and that's my first logo that I posted on Instagram. You go
Yeah.
to my very bottom, you're gonna
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
car.
Yeah.
So yeah, and from there I kind of just launched off. I was like, damn, I could do more of these.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Figuring that out. And I ended up just making another one, and then I made another one.
Yeah.
And it just started coming to my head, and I started thinking of words, and I'm like, that word could look like that.
It's
like,
so sick, man. Like
Yeah.
when I was looking to get my logo done, like I know a few people that do stuff. And I didn't just go to you just because, I knew you or because of this, but because like I realized that in your logos, even from them, I could tell you're communicating a message through it, and not just through like imagery, but even through the text and the way it's designed. Like you're intentional with what you do.
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw your page and all that kind of stuff, I'm like, definitely have to get Armin to do the logo. So I know you're super like busy with all these different things, but are you taking like jobs if people are asked to design logos for you or stuff like that?
I do have people asking me sometimes, quite a bit, but I'm very particular on who I make a logo for. I don't want to just make a logo. It's not something I want to do for a living or for anything like that. It's more of a I don't like to say hobby. It's like a passion, like a side passion of mine.
Yeah.
And I love doing it. But I don't want to make it into like some corporate thing. Like make
or
logos
like
for corporate things.
assembly line, like you exactly what you're intentional about how you do it, and it has to have a meaning, right?
Yeah.
And that's why when I came to you and I said like with the fist with the mic is not just that we're empowering. I'm not just that I want to empower my guests to be able to talk about their story and just to have freedom of speech or whatever. It's to empower people that like it was even showing in my Instagram story today, like this table that I use is like a table my dad used to use when he was smoking in the backyard, or like like this is my living room, but you can make it work, and your message and your voice is what's the power, not the actual environment where that message is communicated, right? So yeah, I can't thank you enough for designing our logo for that.
I had fun, man. That was a fun logo to make, and I know it's gonna have a great impact. This podcast and this project.
Appreciate that, man.
I loved it. And by the way, what I call them is visual puns.
Visual puns.
Yeah,
okay.
visual puns is
I like that. I like that.
They're around Instagram. There's other ones too.
Okay.
But
yeah, awesome. So oftentimes people sensationalize the creative industry and think it's just about, buying an expensive camera, having a Rode mic, having a Zoom recorder. But being in this field, especially working on Courtside, what don't people realize about like the back end work or like the behind the scenes stuff, like things like funding, reaching out to partners, selling the show to producers, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So there's a lot of work that happens behind the scenes before you see the final product. People don't realize this, and the way we know people don't realize it is that they're always asking us like, when is it gonna come out? Why are you guys taking so long?
Yeah.
It's like but it's like funding is huge, man. And writing is another one, man. Writing and ideating and creating the story is such a process, and especially if you want a good story and like the first season, it came very naturally and very fast to us, because we were fresh out of film school and we were hungry, we wanted to do something, and it just happened, it just happened so fast, and we're very proud of that. And we did it out of our pocket, all of it. So the funding was very quick as well. And I knew right coming out of film school, I wanted to do a project that's low budget that can have a great impact. That's what I wanted to do. And Courtside, like Adrian, me and him talked about it a little bit before film school. During film school, we did like a little teaser from it, but it didn't really go anywhere. And then after film school, we accidentally bumped into each other in school again. Yeah. We were both there in the summer, and then we talked for a bit, and we're like, what happened to Courtside, I'm sure Adrian told you this story, but we kind of just talked about it, and I told him what I always thought it could be, and I thought about how it could be low budget and what we could do with it, how it can resonate with people, especially in Toronto. And and from there it just hit off, man. And we were like, you know what, let's do this, man. We can't just sit around and talk about it. We just got to do it. Yeah. And we did. We took a camera one day, brought it to the court, we filmed stuff, and from there it was history, man. We did. Yeah.
I like that mentality, because that's what I keep encouraging people. Like, there's this app called Anchor, and all you have to do is plug it into your phone, and you use the microphone on like your Apple headphones or whatever, and you can start a podcast. It's like, I think the content is like the most important thing. You can always refine. Like, people are seeing on my episodes, like, I added a watermark to my videos now, or like what stressed me out is I wanted to have a perfectly executed show, episodes 1 through 100, but I'm realizing that I'm growing and building, and you guys, like you said, you used your own money, your own equipment, and you made it work. But no one, like, I couldn't tell that. Like, I knew that it was just like I seen a perfectly executed show, but I couldn't tell like what was going on or what, you know, issues you had, because you guys have the experience and the skill set to do that. So big ups to you guys, because you don't need a $1 million budget to make something. You just need heart, and you need passion and just the knowledge to know what to do, right?
Yeah, and a good idea, man. Just have a good idea. I know that's not easy to say or do, but if you have a good idea, run with it, man.
Yeah.
Don't just let it sit down and or sit and do nothing.
Yeah. And to segue into the next question, something that you strongly believe in is that the medium is the message. So why don't you go into a little more about what you mean by that?
Yeah. So one of the people who's inspired me the most in my life, or someone who's really resonated with me throughout my life is I hope I'm not saying his name wrong, because sometimes I do, but Marshall McLuhan.
Okay.
Do you know about him?
I've heard that name.
Yeah.
I don't know too much.
Yeah. So he's a very interesting man, and he kind of broke down media for what it is, you know, and he was kind of he did a lot of things, man. He was a lot, you know, but you just got to look into him, right? And a big part of his life was studying and understanding media and how it works, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a big advocate in understanding what media is and how it works and how it affects people, because since I was a kid, I used to want to be an actor for a little while, you know, and that kind of phase kind of went out, but I realized it's because I watched movies and stuff and I loved them, but it wasn't the acting that I loved. It was the way that movies and films and media affected people and audiences and mass populations, right? And I noticed how that happens, how media can change a culture, it can affect a culture, you know, and I started like really thinking about it, and is like, it also depends on the medium that you use. It says a lot, you know, what you're trying to say, what you're trying to do, you know, the story you're trying to tell. And I thought a lot about if you want to carry a message out, you got to use the medium, you know, to tell the message, you know, to say something, you know. I think back in the days of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and I think about media. People think of media as like what we have now in media, TV, movies, whatever, right? But media isn't that, you know. Media is a message. That's what it is. And the medium is the message as well, because, for example, in those days, what I consider the days of the Prophet, when he wanted to, or any prophet in those days, you know, when they wanted to put out their idea, their message, right? What they do, they would send out letters and on horsebacks, you know, and horseback riders, and they'll get them all around go across continents and countries and just send that message, right? And to me, that's media, you know. That was media. Speaking, public speaking, you know, with crowds in those days, that was media, you know. So it was different, but that was the message. That was the way their mediums was letters on horseback, you know, and public speaking, you know, and poems, you know. Poems was huge back then. So poetry and that kind of thing. So for me, that's how I think about it. Is today our medium isn't letters as much. Now it's bigger. It's way bigger now, you know. And now I just think about the kind of message I want to tell through that medium, you know, and the kind of story I want to tell and how I want to affect people through that message, you know.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'm glad you talked a bit about your faith, because one thing I want to ask on the show, and I ask every guest, is, if any, what role has your faith played in where you are today? Not to say that, you know, such and such were entirely, but just to say holistically as a person, you know, school influenced you, your family influenced you, your culture influenced you, but what role did faith play in where you are today?
Yeah, so that's a big one, just because when I first went into design, that was partly because I was playing it safe, because I knew my parents were like, it was a little safer, you know, but just because you just design visual things, you know, it's graphic design. It's not that risky, right? But when it comes to Islam, you know, when you're Muslim, it's a pretty basic thing, you know. Graphic design isn't that like risky. You're not doing anything too crazy with that, right? But when it comes to the culture as well. But I noticed in my first year that I got to tell stories, you know, and I got to be in film. And I realized I firmly went with it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to be a filmmaker. I'm going to do film, right? I'm going to study film.
Yeah.
I told my parents, at first they weren't very happy with it, because like in film, especially here in America, most films, they have like sexuality, violence, you know, gore for no, like excessive, you know, it's all excessive, you know. And in Islam, that's not a very that's not good in Islam. You know, that's not
Yeah.
something that we believe in. That should be put out so much. You know, and that's one. This is one way that my religion and my family has affected my work and my school. Is I went into film with a mindset, with a promise to myself, to my family, to my faith, that I'm gonna create work that is meaningful, that is gonna
Yeah.
affect people in positive, good, progressive ways. You know,
Wow, that's awesome.
and I this is one thing that I noticed is I was talking about this with a taxi driver yesterday, actually.
Yeah.
Was the difference between Iranian cinema, and Iran cinema is, to me, one of the most underrated,
Really?
greatest cinema in the world, you know, especially foreign cinema, and it's not
Why
talked
so?
about enough. The reason why is because same way Iranian cinema is affected by its country, by its politics, by its religious affiliations, right? Is the way I'm affected when I make films, when I make videos, when I make art. Is that I put myself in a box, you know. I put myself in a box where, and same as Iranian cinema, they're put in a box where they can't have sexuality and sexual representation, or
Yeah.
things like that, right? And they can't have violence or gore or excessive words, you know, that kind of stuff. So we have to work in that box, you know, and in a way that makes us more creative, that makes us more focused on the characters, on the stories, and what to elevate those, rather than, you know, look at American cinema. It's so saturated with sexuality, with violence, with just stories that are not that meaningful, you know. And blockbusters are the thing now in the West, you know.
It's true.
So when you have all the freedom to write whatever you want, to do whatever you want, you become, in a way, less creative in telling a story that's more meaningful. Whereas in Iran or something, they're focused, because that's all they have in their box is telling a good story that's pure, in a way, you know.
Yeah.
That's just characters, that's just
Yeah.
story, and they can't use sex and violence to sell it, you know. This all they can do to sell it is a good story.
And that's a skill set, because it's like you said, being put in a box, but it's a challenge, and to rise above what normally sells and still create good content is a huge skill set.
Yeah.
So awesome. So before I go into the last question that I like to ask every guest, you said when I was prepping for the podcast, you gave me your favorite quote, and I had a hard time understanding this, and I wanted to know what it means to you. But you said the deadliest creature is the silent one. So what does that mean, and what does that mean to you?
Yeah, that's a beautiful quote from me. Yeah. Yeah, so that's actually a quote that I implemented in the translator. That's a huge role line from that. And the reason why I think that's very powerful is because it applies to so many things. And sometimes you just need to be quiet, you know, and just do what you need to do, and attack or come out when you need to, you know, and don't be so loud, you know. Just do your work, be quiet, you know, get shit done.
Yeah.
And when it's time for you to tell people, when it's time for you to attack, it's time for you to put it out there. That's when you do it, you know.
Wow.
So time those attacks, time those times, time those moments that you're gonna say something, you know. But it's important to say something as well, you know.
Yeah.
There's a thing in Shopify that they say, do things, tell people. But I think when you're doing things, do it quietly, you know. Quietly work on it, you know. Be productive.
Don't announce too early. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, now I get it, because that's exactly what I did with the show. Is I'm someone who's like, I guess you can call me a social media addict, but I like being on social media just because, like I said in episode 1, people see it as degrading to social interactions, but I see it as an opportunity just to speak a message, and like you said, the medium as a message. But what I normally do is, even with a lot of things in my life, I get so excited because I know it's a good idea and I know it's a good project, whatever, and I just like to share it. And the hardest thing for me is, even though we launched our first episode in May, I was already starting to prepare and record since, so that was May 2018. I was preparing since like October 2017.
Yeah.
And for me to find, like, I was like teasing, but like it was so hard for me to not put anything out. No. But I realized that if I had done that, one, I would have allowed people who, not to say this in a mean way, but just weren't involved in my process to speak into it and discourage me. And two, I needed to have a good, you know, project going forward, and to not, like, you know, I don't know, just put myself out there too early before people saw the finished work, right? So now I get what you mean, that, and I think that's huge. Is have what you're like, really really focus on what you're doing, trying to make it good, but don't talk about it too early. Don't announce it too early. At the right moment when you do it and you'll know it, release it or talk about it and execute appropriately. Right?
Yeah, and you know what? That line, it applies to everything. Obviously, it applies to the animal kingdom. You know, it's one of the principles of the animal kingdom, hunting. You know, of being successful in the animal kingdom and getting your food to live, and also in the translator, and it applies in a whole nother way. You know, in a whole nother way, especially when someone's being interrogated, when you're being asked the questions and you're trying to get information out of you. Sometimes the deadliest animal in that situation is the silent one.
Wow.
Is the people who don't say anything.
Yeah.
And to the people, to the interrogator, that's very deadly. That's someone who's like dangerous, you know, because they're not giving you anything, and that's hard, you know. For them.
For sure.
That's
for sure. All right, so what I ask every guest is, if you could go back in time, what would you tell grade 9 Omran Omaid just about to enter high school? If you could warn him or give him a word of advice, maybe something that you might have felt you could have done a better approach on in your current life, what would you have warned him or told him about?
I would have told him right away, work and
put in that work and
make films, man. Make films. That's it. I would have told him to make some films as soon as you can.
Yeah.
I made films when I started making films when I was in grade 10. But if I was in grade 9, I was in grade 11 when I made my first film. In grade 11 and 12, I started making some really cool films, like stop motions and stuff.
Wow.
But I wish I could have just done in grade 9. Grade 9 and 10, I was in different high school. I was in Woodlands and in Mississauga.
Yeah.
And then grade 10 and 12, 11 and 12, I was in Milton.
Okay.
Milton District. So Milton in Woodlands, I was around a lot of friends. I was around a lot of people from the elementary school. I was very distracted a lot of times. I was kind of goofy, you know. And I wasn't very focused on what I wanted to do, right? When I moved to Milton, it was the most hateful blessing I've ever had. I hated it. But when I look back now, it was the greatest blessing my parents have ever done for us by moving there. Is because I got there and I was alone. I was in my own like kind of silo usually, and I had a lot of time to think on my own, because I'm at that age as well. I was never really a guy who could make a lot of friends easily.
Yeah.
Just because I was kind of shy, you know, and stuff, and I was kind of weird too. Like, just myself, I was a weird kid, and I still am. But I immediately started like looking at stuff, and I took a Comtech course, and I started making videos, and I loved it. And I fell in love. From there was everything. And if I could go back, I'll tell him, especially because it's grade 9, my energy and my creativity was so crazy back then. I don't even know what I would have made, you know. I definitely would have said make films.
That's awesome. Yeah. All right, so we reached that point in the show where we go to rapid fire. So the first thing that comes to mind, and I've kind of catered it a bit to you. So, ready?
Yep.
All right, so Pepsi or Coke?
Coke.
All right. So I think that's like what I got to do. Like I'm gonna put like an annotation in the bottom of the video.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of Coke. Like a lot of Coke guests. Advil or Tylenol?
Advil.
DC or Marvel?
Marvel.
Best thing about working for Shopify?
The people.
Favorite place you've traveled, local or international?
Istanbul, Turkey.
Awesome. Favorite book you're reading or are reading? Sorry, you read or are reading?
Slippery Stone right now. Yeah.
Favorite food?
Afghan kebabs.
All right. I realized I shouldn't ask that question while you're fasting.
No, it's cool.
If you had to choose, Vimeo or YouTube?
Vimeo.
All right. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna ask it anyways. But best shawarma place in the GTA?
Osmos.
I'm like an Alibaba's guy, but it's okay. I tried Osmos. I had a bad experience with, but it's all right.
I had a couple bad experiences, but
it depends on the restaurant you go to.
Yeah.
Favorite movie?
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Favorite director?
That's
myself.
Right now, I would say, that's a tough one. I really like Ang Lee. Ang Lee, I like his dynamics. He hasn't made the greatest films of all time, but I like his palette of work. I love how every film of his is so different, and that's kind of what I want to do in my career. I want to make different films, completely different stories, different worlds. So yeah, Ang Lee.
Obviously, there's multiple things that are influential in your life and multiple people, but who's one of the most influential people on your life?
Living in my life.
Yeah.
In my life. Influential people in my life. I would say probably my mom and dad. I have to say both of them. My mom and dad are. I always go to them for for direction and what I should do. So
yeah. If you could go back to a single point of your life, what day would that be? For me, while you're thinking, I think I would have wanted to go back to the day I did my valedictorian speech because I told a terrible joke, but I think that was one of the greatest moments of my life, just being up on that stage, and it was one of my first public speaking moments. But
that's a pinnacle moment.
Yeah,
that's a great moment, man.
Yeah.
That's I've never had like a moment like that before though. Like I've never had a moment where they're very subtle, you know. They're very.
Well, it doesn't have to be like that, but big of a platform. But I mean.
Yeah, you know what? Like, it's not a specific day, but like one day that I would go back to is when I was a kid and I would go to Niagara Falls with my family. That was one of my favorite times, man.
Yeah,
I used to go back.
I remember those trips. Yeah,
yeah, and that back then it was like new to you, you know, especially since you're like kind of immigrant and everything's kind of new. And I will go back to one of those days, man, when I was a kid. I'm with my whole family, you know.
Simple times, yeah.
Yeah,
I
from
hear
America,
that.
And it was great, yeah.
I hear that. So if there was a movie based on your life, what would the title read? And then I'm going to ask a follow-up.
Damn, okay. Just the guy.
The guy.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. All right. So in The Guy, who would they cast to play you? What actor?
They would probably cast... I hope Shah Rukh Khan, man.
Hey, okay.
All
right. I like that.
Shit.
If you could have coffee with anyone from any point in history, dead or alive, who would it be?
Coffee with anybody? Wow. I would, yeah, of course, I would have a coffee with the Prophet Muhammad.
I felt like you're gonna say that. Yeah.
Any day.
Awesome. So would you say you're someone who works hard or works smart?
Smart. I work smart. Yeah.
All right. Name a song that puts you in your feelings.
I would definitely have to say Miss Jackson.
Miss Jackson.
The Outcast.
All right. If you were stranded on an island, what 2 things would you want with you?
2 things. I would want us. Okay, yeah, I would want just a like considering I would have food and everything like that. Like have all the resources. Yeah. I would have a sketchbook.
Awesome.
And a pencil or a pen.
Wow. What fashion trend or style, like from any point in time or like when you were young, did you just not get? Like you were not feeling it at all? Everyone said the big 5X tall tees so far, but like the Soulja Boy shirts. But.
Oh yeah. I remember those. Yeah. For me, it might have been. I'm trying to remember all the stuff that we used to wear. Yeah. It used to be the Gino stuff, man.
Yeah.
Gino stuff, like Kappa and stuff. Yeah. I never got into that stuff, man. I was always more the Wakester type, but when I saw that, I was like, oh, the hair and the pants.
Oh, man. So if you were a superhero, what would your superpower be?
Well, what I would want is like being able to control time.
Like Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Hey. Yeah. What job would you be horrible at?
I would be horrible. Anything that's like I have to work really, really fast.
Yeah.
Like super fast. I was horrible sometimes in Harvey's because in rush hour I was like, you know, I could never work as fast as everyone else. Yeah. You know, I was like, I take my time with things. I take my time.
That's good. That's a good thing though.
Yeah.
What show ended that you wish had another season?
I love the Arrested Development. I thought that ended a little too early, and the Netflix version was never like the original version.
Really?
Yeah.
Because they picked it up after it ended, or?
Yeah. Okay. Well, Arrested Development kind of got canceled.
Oh. Okay.
Because at the time it was too. Like it's a very interesting thing that happened. Do you mind if I just go into that?
Go ahead. Yeah.
So it's Arrested Development. It was one of my favorite shows ever. I think it was so well written. It's probably one of the smartest shows I ever watched.
Wow.
You know? It's so funny. Because there's so many layers to it, you know, the jokes, you watch it once, you get what, like one layer of jokes.
Mhm.
You watch it another time and you start getting another layer of jokes. And sometimes you watch an episode and you think about it like months later or weeks later and you're like,
Yeah.
oh shit, there's that to it too. You know, there's another layer to it. You notice things sometimes. And that's beautiful writing, you know.
Mhm.
And at the time when it's on cable and you watch it once, it's like a lot of the jokes go over your head. We're not paying enough attention or something. And it was mainly an American audience, and I don't want to be like thinking about Americans, but like some things go over their heads a lot, you know, especially if it's like a very dense series or show. And when it went to DVD and it got canceled, the DVD sales rocketed. You know, the DVD sales were crazy because people were able to rewind and watch something again, you know, and rewatch a joke or something. I noticed I did start doing that a lot when I was watching it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, wait, there's more to that joke. I went back.
I hear that stuff because I guess I'm like the rival. I'm a The Office fan and I love The Office. But like I think I've watched it like 8 times, like season, like all 9 seasons 8 times.
Yeah.
I think there's this guy on Instagram that watched it so much that Netflix actually contacted him asking if he was okay. Like he has it on repeat on his TV like 24/7. But since you like Marvel, I don't know if you heard about it, but you know when Tobias dresses up as, or like he has like that blue paint on him. He's actually, you know, in the you know, do you know the collector in Marvel, the guy that collects all the, so he's actually in his thing. If you check back, there in Infinity, I don't know if you watch Infinity War yet.
Yeah, I did.
But there's when I guess the Gamora and Quill and whatever they're trying to get to Thanos, he's actually in the background. So check it out.
Are you serious?
Yeah, because the directors that directed Arrested Development and directed Infinity War, I believe, right?
Yeah, that did Arrested
the Russo
Development,
brothers,
right? Yeah, the Russo brothers.
Yeah, so they got rights to put Tobias, the blue guy, in the collector stuff. So check that out. Fun fact.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
I like when people cross over. I think Marvel. I don't know a lot of movies that have a universe that intertwines as good as that. So
Marvel is so like advanced right now. One thing I want to point out, man, because I kind of sounded like I was hating on Hollywood for a second there when I was talking about Iranian cinema. I just want to say Hollywood is one of the most advanced aspects of America.
Yeah.
Hollywood is miles, ages ahead of the film industry. There is ahead of any other film industry in the world. When it comes to like Japan, it has technology. You know, all these countries have their things. You know, America has Hollywood. Hollywood is advanced over anybody, just in its technology, in the stories they tell, and the originality and all that stuff. You know, they're saturated with all that other stuff like sexuality and violence. But Hollywood and Marvel and Disney is like an example of that, how advanced they are. The universe they created, you know, people are going to hate on it and say there's no meaningful thing to it. But what they're doing is like crazy what they're doing. It's like the universe they're creating is unheard of. This is the first time something like this has happened.
Like I'm a huge huge Batman fan. Like regardless of any universe, I'm a Batman guy. Like I know Brampton has a Batman. I'm gonna become Malton's Batman one day. You know? But I mean like even though I love Batman, like the MCU has just crushed other like universes in terms of like their superhero movies. But But the last question I wanted to ask you is, and you can take a little time to think about this, is what's the title, if your life was a book, what's the title of the current chapter of your life right now?
That's a good question. Current chapter would have to be transitions.
Okay. Why would you say that? Why would it? I did this with Adrian too. He's like, I'm like, what would you title the chapter? And he's like, focus. And I'm like, why would you say that? I'm like, Matt, didn't you just listen to this whole damn podcast?
No,
I get it.
But it's just because it's a lot of things going on right now. And
awesome. All right, so we reached that point in the episode where it's guest corner. So this is your chance. You have the mic to shout out anything, or say and if you would like to as well, say a little last message to the listeners to encourage them on anything you want to do. So the mic is yours. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, first of all, thank you for listening, whoever did listen, and get up to here. I F with you if you got all the way up to here. But I was gonna say Courtside is a big shout out. I don't know how I can structure this just so you can. Is it gonna just be there, or
all the
you
links?
Edit it?
Every link is gonna be in the thing. But whatever you want to say. Mm-hmm.
By the way, you're gonna be Malton's Matt Man, not Matt Man.
I like that.
Malton's Matt
Man.
But I was just gonna say, I guess that there's I know there's a lot of people out there right now who are trying to do things, you know, especially in Malton and Toronto and stuff. They're trying to make things happen, and around the world, man. There's people all around the world. Maybe someday this podcast will be a worldwide phenomenon,
Yeah.
like cereal or something, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to say, man, just like the one thing I noticed recently, like that kind of hit me during Ramadan, like very recently. Wow, like every time I fast and I do like a good fast, like the 30 days, and I'm kind of focused. Some
Yeah.
months I'm not the best. This month I'm pretty good, you know, and I'm pretty focused, and I'm thinking about my spirit and my
That's
awareness, and I'm trying to be as woke as I can.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I noticed that we should all really try to do is help, like, give others hope. You know, whenever you can, try to give others hope, man. Because I just noticed when the more I'm doing that with people, the more energy I get. You know, and the
Wow.
more I'm noticing other people are getting things out of it. You know, and I don't think people do that enough. You know, just give each other hope, and in any way they can, is just lend a piece of your, you know, energy to them. You know, and your mind and your vibrations. You know, give them some of your vibrations, and they'll share that with you, and everyone starts going up, man.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, that's all I want to say, man. Just whoever's listening, whenever you get a chance, the next person you see, the next conversation you have, just talk to someone, and just in any way you can, try to inspire them. Anything you can say or do is just give them a big ups, compliment, whatever you can do. Yeah, just do it, man.
Definitely. Definitely.
But other than that, yeah, check out some of my work. You know, Matt will put those links up.
100%.
And anytime you guys want to hit me up. I'm on Instagram. You know, I'm on Facebook. So yeah, just hit me up, and I'm totally open to discuss anything with anybody, anytime.
Awesome. And then they're gonna definitely check out Courtside season 2.
Absolutely, check out Courtside. The links are going to be provided.
100%.
Take it in. Season 2 is coming out soon. We're in the development. We're writing it. I'm actually going to be meeting with Adrian right after this.
Awesome.
to do some writing for about 3 hours. So
Yeah.
yeah, check it out, man. We're putting some work into it, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it.
Awesome. And you know, that segues perfect into just what I like to do with every guest is give you guys a word of encouragement. Not because you guys are fishing for compliments or praise, but one of the points of the show is not just to put anyone on the show, but to put people on the show who I respect what you're doing. I know you personally sometimes, or just I see that you have a heart for whatever you're doing or for people. And even with that, like, you're living out in Ottawa, you came to, like, he was just telling me that this is his first time coming back, back to the GTA from being in Ottawa with Shopify. And I'm blessed that this is his first stop. But then he's also going to meet with Adrian. And part of what I really respect about you is your work ethic and your dedication and your love for people, because I think that's definitely why after those 5 interviews Shopify took you, is because like you said, you may not be a super fast worker, but you put heart into what you did. And that's why I told you when you were designing my logo to take your time, because I know that it's more important than just, you know, the job or just what you're trying to create, but the message that you want to send. And I love that art is a message for you, because in a world with so much negativity, there's so much different ways to preach positivity, and it's not always in words, but it's in creation. So that's something I like about you. I love that you're a diversified individual, that you're not just one type of guy or you have a specific type of niche, but you're good in multiple pockets. Like, you're editing, you're directing, you're writing, you're an artist, you're doing all these things. I think that's going to be an asset to any team or any organization you're on. I think I was telling you about this earlier, in one of the cuts, and even in what you were talking about in Small Talk, is I love having good conversations with you, because you're like, you cue everything really well. Like, you're someone who is so diversified in the sense that a conversation is not boring with you. And I just want to big you up, even in, like, with your fasting and everything like that. Like, you're doing less of you sometimes and more for others, and more like in even giving to people and sacrificing and stuff like that. So you're going to do well, man. Like, to sum it up, I see you going big places, and I'm happy to be a part of the ride on the sidelines, watching you where you are. And lastly, I can't thank you enough for designing our logo, because that is communicating a message to people. And wherever we go with the show, you've played a part in where we are today. So I give you honor for that. So I thank you so much for that.
Thank you, man. Sure.
But
it's my pleasure.
Yeah. So that ends our show today. But Omran, I just wanted to thank you so much for being here today and being a part of this. And even though you have a busy schedule, blessing us with your presence. So thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
Awesome.
Yeah.